Que pasa, my friends? Nemo here from NGC Gaming, and today I want to talk about a game that I just finished, and that game is called Meg's Monster. For those of you hoping that this is not just another version of Monsters, Inc. or some Disney-type story, I have good news for you guys. It's definitely not that. This game is really good, but also really cute. It's a game that I would suggest for people who aren't really gamers, but also people who are gamers. Before we get into that though, I do want to ask you guys to please do me a favor and down in the comment section below, write what game you're playing right now. I'm really curious what games everyone's playing and their thoughts on them. It really helps other people from the community as well find a new game maybe they haven't heard of. Anyway, back to Meg's Monster, as this game offers a lot in form of story, but also art. It's not the most graphically impressive game, or it doesn't give you the wow factor of, I don't know, like an Octopath Traveler 2, but what it does do is paint a very vivid picture with a very simplistic art style that really works. I mean, I don't think a different art style would work as well as this does for this game, because there is a cutesy factor. Let's not forget that ultimately this game is about a little girl who's about 4 or 5 years old who runs into a monster, which is, I would say, the mix between Sully from Monsters Inc. and Tyrant from Resident Evil. You can tell by this weird eyeball thing he has on his shoulder. But I digress. The actual art style, though, I think really does work well for the game. And most importantly, it allows itself to be the canvas for, I think, the biggest strength of the game, which is the writing and the storytelling, the character building. All of that is where this game really shines. And it seems like every aspect of the game sort of comes down to facilitating that strength. Even the combat system, which is a turn-based battle system that we've seen in many classic RPGs. But the thing is this game does actually test you a little bit. I'm not going to say that you're going to have a lot of problems. I myself ended up dying once throughout this game, but I do think that if you're a newcomer to video games or specifically RPG battle mechanics, you might have a few problems here or there, because the most important thing about the actual combat is following the patterns of the enemy. They will pretty much repeat themselves, so as long as you know when to guard and defend, you'll be fine. But this game gives you plenty of outs and doesn't penalize you too much for when you actually do die. It literally just has you reset the battle, which you can't really complain about. It's not nearly as archaic as some of the old RPGs that we played, where we could lose up to hours of gameplay from losing one random battle. Although in this game there are no random battles, and pretty much for every battle won, it sort of closes out a chapter. I'm not going to say officially closes out a chapter, but when you play the game you can kind of understand what I mean, as your final duty, I guess, in uncovering part of the story comes with a battle. And usually that battle is relatively quick and allows Roy to level up. You control Roy, who, by the way, has 99,999 HP. So dying isn't really a concern. See, that's not the problem with the battle. That's not your big issue or concern. No, the big one is Meg. Because see, she stands behind you and she has much less HP than you do. And what happens is every time that Roy gets hurt in any form, she starts to get upset. And the more he gets hurt, the more she gets upset until she starts crying. And if she cries, it's game over. Now, you do have some options to keep her pacified and happy. Those also coming with buffs at times. And these are toys that you get. Now, you'll get a different toy or a new toy to the collection with different cutscenes that you play throughout the game. And the game itself is incredibly generous with how many different toys or magic tar that Roy is allowed to use in a battle. Magic tar is basically present in the battles without Meg, and they just refuel his health. So if I'm being honest, I kind of wanted to cover a lot of other parts about this game before I actually got to the actual story. And the reason is because it's so good, and the writing is so good. Just the banter between characters really seems genuine. In fact, the dialogue in general in this game really just helps it paint this very vivid picture, this very fantastical story of a little girl falling into the underworld with a bunch of monsters who potentially want to eat her, but at the end of the day, she must find her way back to her mom, and she's lucky enough to stumble upon Roy, who actually doesn't want to eat her, and in fact protects her, as you control Roy and help her get through this underworld and uncover the secrets as to why she's even down there, what happened, and where's her mom. The characters really do seem to grow throughout this entire game, and I think that's one thing that I really appreciate from writing in a game. Now, you can have great banter, you can even have great storytelling, but if you don't have character growth, it just seems hollow. But all of those elements are definitely present in this game. Without a doubt, this is one of those games, I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna hit you in the feels at times. It's gonna make you feel a certain way, especially if you're like me and you have a little daughter. But even if you don't, I think most people would be able to appreciate the story that it's telling and in the manner that it does. See, one of my biggest concerns is that it was gonna be really cutesy and no, it's actually pretty gruff, and at times it gets to be, I'm not gonna say not safe for work, but it does get on that side of being more edgy. Now, not completely, but it's not just some game that's meant for little kids to play. I think adults will enjoy this as well, and in fact, I think this is one of those games that I would pretty much recommend to anyone. Now, I know that sounds very sweeping, and yes, there's probably a group of people who wouldn't enjoy this game, but anyone who enjoys a good story, anyone who enjoys decent battle mechanics, and just a relatively positive gaming experience would absolutely love this game. Before I'm done talking about, though, I do want to talk about the music. You see, not often am I reminded of Final Fantasy VIII. Why? Because there's a song at the end of the game called Eyes on Me, I think? I don't know, I'm gonna have to check and see if I'm right. But it's in the very ending of Final Fantasy VIII. Well, needless to say, there is a song at the end of this game that made me think about that. And I'm telling you, the only issue with this game is the fact that they do, at times I feel like, especially during the end part of the game, try to get you to be emotional about it. And honestly, by the time the game actually ends, at least for me, I was pretty much done with the story. I had expected everything that had happened, and I'd already felt what I needed to feel. But luckily, there was this great song at the very end that really kind of made me think about the song and wonder who wrote it and the actual score itself. And kind of looking into the music of this game, ultimately, you can tell that there was a ton of care and effort put into it. So I definitely wanted to talk about how great the music is from this game, as well as the writing. And that all comes down to the whole thing I was talking about, how everything in this game really facilitates the story. It provides the canvas for the story to be the picture. And I think that that's what really works for this game, is it knows its place. Everything knows its place. The combat system knows it's not supposed to be over the top. The music is not supposed to take away. The voice acting, which there is none, but the voice acting, if there was, would take away. All this other stuff would take away from what's important in the game, and that is the writing and the storytelling and the character building. And this game, like I said, does a phenomenal job of it. Now, right now, this game is $14.99, which I feel like is a pretty decent price. I really do. Because if I was going to grade this game, I would give it a solid 7.5 out of 10, which I know maybe isn't the highest score, but I have to ding it a few points because ultimately this is a game that you could probably beat in one sitting. Someone like me, it took about 3 sittings, but I would say it falls into that 5 to 7 hour mark. And for some people, $15 for a 5-hour game is just a little bit too expensive. So that's really the only criticism I have about the game, is its length. And at times, like I said, I feel like it even tries to, stretch that out a little bit. Now listen, the story is incredibly important and it grows from where you think it is. But at the same time, you can see some like extra stuff in there for a while, especially at the end where you're like, okay, just end. Just please end. Much like most of you are thinking about this review right now. Anyway, though, that's my thoughts. By the way, just in case anyone's curious, there are no performance issues. I had no crashes. The game runs perfectly great. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Meg's Monster. Let me know if you guys are interested in it, if it's something that you saw that you thought you might pick up. This was one that a lot of people I know end up picking it up just because they were kind of curious about it, and everyone I know was pleasantly surprised. So, let me hear your thoughts on it. Anyway, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. You're all amazing. And take care, everyone. Bye-bye.